I feel like the I'll kill your procrastination forever videos don't fully understand procrastination, at least not in the way that I experience it. Every time I see one, it's like I get a sense of hope that maybe this time, this will be the thing that changes my mindset. This is gonna help me finally be productive, but it never works, and I leave not feeling very different from how I was before, and then I procrastinate even more. I'll say that there's three different types of procrastination videos. One in which you're procrastinating on bettering yourself, such as cooking and getting exercise, and overall just taking good care of yourself. Two, procrastination of things you don't want to do, but have to do or bad things will happen, such as completing work or homework assignment. And three, in which you have your own goals, such as finishing a story or learning a song, but you don't feel like doing it, so you go and procrastinate on it, despite it being your passion. Essentially, the entire idea of trying not to procrastinate on things is to do something you don't want to do with the idea that it will benefit you later, regardless of which type of procrastination it is. The entire concept is to force yourself to pave through the work at a reasonable pace, otherwise you'll regret it. Every time I watch one of these videos, I'm confused. They talk as if it's a glorious thing. Suffer now, reward later. And of course, none of their advice ever works for me because I never get past the suffer part. I have a very strong resistance towards not wanting to suffer, I guess. Even if it would benefit me later, it reminds me a bit of the hustle propaganda. Work now, save money, and then you'll be happy. Or do this, and then I promise you'll be happy. Go to college and be a doctor, and you'll be successful and make lots of money, and only then can you be happy. But to me, every promise of success in the future feels like a complete lie. I don't trust, and then you'll be happy, because what about right now, in the present moment? If we're constantly trying to force ourselves to do things we don't feel like doing right now in the ideal of a good future, then we're not living in the present at all. We're simply trying to live in the future. To me, it just feels like a waste. A waste of time, a waste of my years, because whether I want to or not, my current reality, or at least my current physical body, resides within the present, not the past and not the future. And therefore, even if I'll be punished for not completing, for example, an assignment on time, it's so hard to motivate myself to do it because, in my eyes, I gain nothing regardless. At the very least, if I manage to complete my work, things stay the same as they always have been, or they'll get worse. Because once you complete something, you get more work, and it becomes even harder now because you are capable of doing the other work, so clearly you're capable of doing more and harder work. The reward is nothing. Nothing after the homework assignment, and nothing after working all day. You are still not at the future you want, things are the same, and there's nothing to tell your brain that you did a good thing today. And you may be thinking, oh, what about the procrastination tip, in which to reward yourself after small tasks, like a treat or a sticker sheet to help you work your way up to a smaller, guaranteed goal that you can look forward to. If it works for you, that's great, but let me get into a reason why this might fail for many of us struggling. In a YouTube video called Sometimes Your Lack of Discipline Is Not Your Fault by Turtles Can Fly, they go exactly into the psychology behind procrastination. They delve deeper into the study of environmental factors and scientific side of things like psychology tests and how these environmental factors can shape people's mindset, making it harder to be disciplined and productive. They give a simple analogy near the beginning, which I'd say helps pin everything together. Essentially, the example is this. There is a girl who is eating her lunch at school. She is saving the chicken for last because it is her favorite part. She's eating all of the vegetables first, despite hating them, because she is disciplining herself so that she may be rewarded in the future. She is finally finished eating the vegetables, but then someone goes by and steals her chicken right before she can eat it. Let's say this sort of thing happens consistently. Eventually, the girl is going to learn that if she doesn't eat the chicken first, then she'll never get it. She'll never get that happiness, so she takes what she can as soon as she can get it and begins to eat the chicken first. If we take this a step further from the original analogy provided by Turtles Can Fly, let's say that the person who stole her chicken makes fun of her, rubs it in her face that they got the chicken first, ostracizes her, and also let's say that she has to constantly do what this person asks of her, making her miserable while this person constantly ensures that she gains nothing despite her constant attempts to be good. This is getting really serious for a piece of chicken, but hear me out here, okay? Anyways, after this is gonna make this girl seriously depressed. If she can manage to get the chicken in the beginning, she's not going to want to inflict more suffering on herself by eating the vegetables later, because she's already constantly experiencing terrible things and doing work she doesn't want to do because she's forced to by the person who's being cruel to her. So, she's not going to inflict more pain onto herself. She's going to take that happiness where she can get it. Even if eating those vegetables will suck to eat now, but will help her in the long term, such as the vitamins she'd gain from eating them, because her life is so sad, she can't bring herself to do something that's so difficult and painful for her, regardless of the future impacts, because the idea of a possible good future is too hard to believe. She's been good, and she's been working, but every day more pain awaits rather than a reward. And especially if for a while she's unable to get any of her chicken completely, she's not going to want to eat the vegetables because, again, it'll just cause more suffering. So, the best thing she can do to maintain any sense of happiness is to not eat the vegetables, so that at the very least, she's not putting herself through more work and pain that she doesn't want. Regardless of the impacts on the future, her body is in a stress state, so it's not focusing on thriving, it's not focusing on the future, it's only focusing on the now. How can it survive right now? And how it can do that is by not eating those vegetables. This is a coping mechanism, and it's a way to feel okay just for a moment. It is not entirely rational. She knows that eating the vegetables will be good for her. She knows that she simply hates it in the moment, that it will be good for survival. But for her emotions to thrive, to feel happy, it'll weigh her down. And for people with trauma, even if they are in a better place right now, something like work could trigger the trauma response, and the brain and the nervous system will remember. And therefore, the person will have a similar coping response, even if the threat is no longer there. So, it's similar to what I was mentioning before, how one tip is you could simply reward yourself after work. Those who have suffered with trauma might be unable to mentally perceive this reward after idea as feasible, even if it logically is. Because of their trauma, they're much more likely to impulsively take the reward first as a means to try to motivate themselves to do the work after. Now that the reward has been guaranteed, though, this often causes a lack of motivation following, because the reward was received with no work, and if you can get the reward without working, there is no need to work. Thus, a cycle begins with an inability to be productive and trying to quickly take any chance at a reward that can be gotten. You may have heard something called sleep revenge. It is similar to this, the term meaning you procrastinate on sleeping because you dread what will happen tomorrow. You want to enjoy the moment now because you know you're dreading what's coming in the future. It's the same with procrastination, just not about sleep. And this concept can be applied towards those who face the procrastination the way I do. They don't believe that what's coming in the future will be good, or it simply is guaranteed that it won't be good. So they chronically take any chance they can get at being happy, even if it puts them in more shit later. It's still shit regardless of whether there's more of it or not, and at least maybe if they did this, they could feel okay, ensuring that everything's okay right now. I also believe that part of this problem can be connected to social media. The shorts, the TikToks, the Instagram Reels, etc. There's been a lot of YouTubers bringing this up, how it brings instant gratification, instant rewards, keeps us hooked. Well, then it would make sense that there's a very real possibility that this instant gratification could be part of what makes it so hard to be productive. Work is hard and work is scary. It is a threat to your current happiness because you dislike it. Short videos, oftentimes, are like a guaranteed promise that you'll feel okay. If that one video you watched didn't make you as happy, the next one probably will. It's why so many people, when procrastinating, find themselves scrolling through videos, because these videos are what they're searching for, a reward, something to make them feel okay just in the moment, and that's all those videos do. We're so desperate to feel okay that we just keep scrolling, hoping and looking for a chance. It doesn't matter what happens if we can be distracted enough, everything will be okay just for a moment. All of this ties into the concept that many struggling to be motivated. Why be motivated if working makes you sad and you can feel okay right now by not working? There is no perceivable reward other than right now, which is avoiding work. And whenever I watch these procrastination help/disciplinary videos, they always assume that I believe that if I were to stop procrastinating and have good discipline, that then I'd be happy. And while it's true to an extent, if I could push myself to get good food, exercise, get good sleep, I probably would feel better. If I forced myself to do the little bits of my homework assignment, I'd probably feel better knowing I wouldn't have any last-minute stress. And I wouldn't get in trouble because I'd be able to turn it in on time for once. If I forced myself to finish learning a song I wanted, a personal goal, I'd probably feel accomplished that I did something that I personally wanted to achieve. I should feel motivated, and I should want to do it, right? It's not enough to make me feel like it's something I care to achieve. If I feel tired and I don't want to do anything, why should I? It would only cause me more suffering to do it right now. And if you're in an unsafe environment, this feeling is intensified. Let's say you're a minor and you're still living with your parents, but you feel unsafe at home and unhappy at school. Whatever the chance you can get to be happy, you'll probably take it because instant gratification is all you have. In something like schoolwork or work in general, there is no sense of growth. You are doing these things to keep things the way they are. Don't finish schoolwork, bad things will happen, you'll get in trouble. Don't work, how are you going to afford rent? These aren't things that you will feel satisfaction achieving. These are simply things you have to do. Why? I don't know. It doesn't really make you happy, it just keeps you alive. It's more like work to survive and not work to thrive. And when you have a mindset like this, and when you grew up in an environment that forced this upon you, when it comes to things you might actually enjoy and make you feel fulfilled, such as reaching personal goals or eating healthy and exercising, you feel no pleasure because you're too busy trying to survive to focus on thriving, and the picture of actually being happy feels impossible because you may have never really had it too in the first place. Many children spend their whole childhoods not having autonomy, constantly told what to do and when to do things by authority figures, no matter whether they are at home or at school. So the feeling of needing to procrastinate is strong, both in older children and adults, because many feel they never got that time to themselves, which is something they needed desperately growing up. Because many feel robbed of this time, procrastinating is like trying to find a way to get instant rewards and instant gratification, as a coping mechanism also to sort of take back the time that was stolen from them. So anyways, back to the point at hand, if anti-procrastination videos don't work on you, it might be because you never had the motivation to complete those tasks in the first place. Almost every video I've watched assumes I have some sort of motivation to get the task done. I mean, why else would I click on the video, you know? Obviously I need to get the task done, but there's a stark difference between knowing you need to do something and actually having the motivation to do something. You could be punished for not doing the task, and you know that, but you might not have the motivation to complete it. Chances are, if you're like me, you felt you needed to, but did not want to, and so you searched for a way that would help you force yourself to do something that you don't want to do at all. Then when you leave the video, even after trying out their techniques, you notice none of it even works, because, at the end you didn't want to do it. I think the first actual step to quote-unquote becoming more productive and disciplined is actually recognizing why you don't want to do these things on a deeper level. I'm sort of going into the trauma therapy route with you guys right now, but if you can understand specifically what caused this and what your thoughts are surrounding it, it can honestly help you find a way to tell yourself to get it done based on your own environment, both current and past, and whatever is making you not want to be productive. Exploring these questions through journaling is my best recommendation. Is it a trauma-based mindset? If you can find out why specifically these tasks don't work for you, you can come to understand how your brain works and what may actually work for you. The answer on what to do for everyone watching this video is probably going to be a little bit different, but I'll provide an example of what I'm getting at. For example, earlier, when I explained how the concept of gifting yourself a reward after completing tasks to motivate you to do them didn't work for someone like me because of how the trauma brain sees it as a trigger response and doesn't contextualize it to be true, therefore making it so I feel no motivation to do the thing. Now I understand that that's how my brain works. This is intellectualizing your emotions, logically understanding how the emotions work and further down the road where they came from, such as always having my chicken stolen from me, showing promise that the reward would be something I would never get even if I did work. But even after logically understanding, you will still feel the emotional part strongly. This is because intellectualizing is only understanding. It helps you be more aware of where everything is coming from. Sometimes, just being aware can help you push yourself to start or complete the task. Because had you not been aware, you simply would have become overwhelmed with emotions, unsure where they came from or what they mean, only that they're bad and preventing you from doing anything, then shutting down and completely shrouded in a feeling of not knowing what's wrong with you, or for some, knowing what the problem is can be enough for them to have the strength to begin doing these tasks. Because it is no longer overwhelming nonsense, it's finally organized and understood. But many times, the emotional part of you is still going to be firing up every time you try, even if you understand it to be illogical. For this, as you try to force yourself to work, notice any feelings or sensations that come up in your body. The ones that would normally make you unable to work. Then try to heal that part of yourself towards recognizing that you are safe. Over time, teaching the emotional side of your body that, hey, it's okay. Start off slow with something that helps comfort you in a somatic matter, such as something that, I don't know, you really like a stuffed animal or eating your favorite food. Try out a bunch of different things to see what makes these feelings and sensations go down a bit as you try to work, such as helping reward yourself or bring yourself safety while working, incorporating it directly into your work itself. The goal of this is to find something that helps your emotional side feel like you're in a safe space, so that working feels less like a threat towards your well-being. I'd also like to add that this isn't about fully exploring why you don't want to do the task itself. Although it can be useful, especially if you're on the neurodivergent spectrum and things such as textures and sounds are what's making it difficult for you, which, in that case, you can find accommodations to help yourself complete those tasks. But sometimes, the task itself just sucks. Sometimes you don't like it, and figuring out why you don't like the task is important, especially depending on what it is. But a big part of this is exploring why the techniques that are designed to help someone do such chores, such as the Pomodoro technique or eating the frog techniques, aren't working for you. What is it specifically about these techniques that isn't connecting with you? And why doesn't it connect? Do your emotions feel any different when you try out different techniques? I believe that understanding the core of what the central issue is regarding your inability to be able to be quote-unquote disciplined and productive, where it comes from, then learning how to emotionally process that will bring anyone struggling so strongly with this way further into their journey of actually learning how to be productive than forcing themselves with many different techniques that aren't working without understanding why. And if you can find out why, but you're completely stumped on what to do, Reddit and Quora or even Claude AI or ChatGPT can be great resources towards helping you learn what may work best for you. Because once you know what the issue is, you can find like-minded people who share the issue, and now the techniques to help you work will actually be geared towards you specifically, instead of a broad audience who may have a completely different reason for why they're struggling to focus. And if you can't find anything on Quora or Reddit, though there's controversy with AI right now, I believe they can honestly be a great tool towards helping you find strategies that may work under your personal circumstances. When you're completely out of ideas or need some support, it can be a good way or a resource for you to be able to get brainstormed ideas that are personalized towards what you're struggling with, rather than something broad. And while I say all of this, I think a lot of people procrastinate who don't want to do their work, secretly want an escape. There's things they could do, maybe even techniques they could implement that do work to some extent to help them get their work done, but they don't want to do it, any of it, and they search desperately for any way to force themselves to do it. They say they want to, but at the end of the day, they're searching for any possible way to literally just get out of doing it at all. Because that's all they really want. I mention this because I'm like this. It took me a long time to admit that once anything started mildly working for me, I wanted to escape. To find an excuse not to do anything, something that could get me out of doing this, but at the end of the day, I had to, and there was no getting out of it. I think the same advice goes that you need to provide something good for you, something comforting that helps make work feel more safe to you. Having said that, I think it's important to be able to acknowledge every thought you have, even the ones of looking for an excuse not to work, because admitting that helps you understand yourself. Though it raises caution, because sometimes these thoughts are not always true. If you're self-hating on yourself for struggling, you might talk down to yourself that you're just faking and over-exaggerating and you're a bad person because you're lazy, and this is especially common with people with neurodivergence who literally are struggling because of unable to being able to handle those textures or sensory input, and then other people can do that, so clearly they're a horrible person and being lazy for having a harder time, or something to that degree. To that, I would simply tell you, even these thoughts themselves make your struggling valid. Like, even if you weren't neurodivergent and it wasn't something specific like a sensory issue, if you're hating on yourself, like you're so troubled that you're hating on yourself, then regardless of the circumstance of why you're hating on yourself, the stress of work is still there because those thoughts prove that work is stressing you out to the point where you are literally hating on yourself, no matter where it is coming from. And that in itself means you're struggling, and that's valid. And then this will also make it so that your mental capacity to be working is lowered because you're spending so much energy hating on yourself. And at the end of the day, journaling all of your thoughts and feelings and letting yourself explore and admit to anything really can help you find out what's going on, which will then help you start moving forward. Thank you for watching. This is my first video, and I intend to be making more content centering around those. helping those who may be struggling. And if anything I said stood out to you, please consider subscribing and telling me what it is in the comments. Thank you.